Thank you for stopping by. Today, Team 5 will be discussing Colombia. At just over 1.1 million square kilometers and about 48 million residents, it is less than a third in size and nearly a seventh of the population of the United States. To determine if doing business in Colombia would be appropriate, we'll be looking at an informal analysis of 6 major factors that help determine the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that make up the extremities of such a decision. The factors are political, economic, socio-cultural, technological, environmental, and legal factors. In Colombia, the distribution of men versus women is nearly even. However, by looking at the age distribution, we find that the majority of the population is between 15 and 24 years old. The Republic of Colombia has a presidential system of government. Their surviving constitution dates back to 1991. It opened the way for the reform of a highly centralized system of government. The president of the republic, which is currently Juan Manuel Santos, is elected by the population for a non-renewable term of 4 years, and he is the chief executive officer. He appoints the government, which has to be approved by the Congress. Legislative power is vested in the House of Representatives and Senate. Colombia is divided into 31 departments and 1 district. The governor of the departments are elected by the district population. There appears to be far less integrity in Colombia's government. In fact, it ranks 90th in the world for corruption, whereas the United States is presented as ranking only the 18th. In roughly the last decade, there has been significant growth in inward and outward stock. As the United States has predominantly higher average, it appears to fluctuate greatly, while on the other hand, Colombia has steadily been increasing. And since the year 2013, they have increased dramatically while the United States appears to be declining. Inward stock for Colombia has been higher since before 2005, and like outward, it started its greatest climb in the year 2013. The stability of the outward flow is a little more complex than that of the United States over the past decade. However, currently we appear to have nearly come to the same percentage. While the stability of the outward flow is a bit rocky, it is clear that the inward flow of the foreign direct investment may be on the move and is currently at its all-time high for the last decade. By comparing the freedom scores between the United States and Colombia, we see that Colombia has about 72% of the freedom that the United States enjoys. Looking at the financial freedom of both countries, we see that though the freedom was lower between the years of 2000 and 2013, Colombia now shares the same amount of freedom as we see in the United States. Though the economic system of Colombia is a free market and the United States is mixed, we see that the exchange rate, GDP, and GDP per capita are significantly lower than that of the United States. The unemployment and inflation rates are significantly higher, but the foreign direct inflation and public debts are far lower. We get a better understanding of the social factors of Colombia when we compare them to those of the United States. Masculinity is the only area where both countries' ratings are particularly close. Looking specifically at other areas, we see that Colombia has greater ratings in power distance, uncertainty avoidance, and indulgence, but lower ratings in the individual and long-term orientation areas. By analyzing their religion and language, it is quite clear that though many other religions can be found in Colombia, the vast majority of the country belong to the Catholic faith. In fact, 70.9% of it does. Like religions, there are many languages. The official language is Spanish, but what we see here is a breakdown of the different variants of the Spanish language in the country. Under the Program for International Student Assessment, we find the comparison between Colombia scores and the scores of the United States. We find that in science and reading, the two countries are quite close and both are above the world standards. However, though both countries exceed the average in mathematics, we find that Colombia has a decent lead on the United States. Moving on to the technical aspect of the country, The graph shows that the gross domestic spending on research and development has slowly but steadily increased. However, it continues to remain staggeringly lower than that of the United States and the global average. Here we see a similar pattern with the number of scientific papers published in 2003. As you can tell, the number of papers published in Colombia would look stagnant in comparison to that of the United States. However, you can see that they are in fact slowly increasing in this area. It's just that they are on a much lower playing field than that of the United States. Patent applications in Colombia, as expected, are lower in comparison to that of the United States. However, in 2001, the numbers have more than quadrupled for their non-resident applications. Residential and abroad have grown steadily, but at this rate, they will not catch up to that of the United States anytime soon. Countries keep track of their environment by measuring several factors. The EPI, or Environmental Performance Index, shows the ratings on a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being that they are far from achieving their predetermined goals, and 100 being that they have completed their goals. The graph illustrates that the overall scores between 2006 and 2014 remained quite constant until the year 2014, where both the Colombia and the United States started to take a greater leap forward in achieving their goals. This graph shows the score for each category. By analyzing this information, it becomes clear that for the year 2016, the United States came closer to achieving its goals in the health impact, water and sanitation, water resource, agricultural, fisheries and climate, and energy. In the forest and biodiversity/habitat sections, Colombia is doing far better than America in meeting its goals. They are even doing just slightly better in air quality. Colombia's legal system is a civil law system influenced by the Spanish and French civil codes. Here we see a side-by-side comparison of the ratings of intellectual property rights for Colombia and the United States. This realm involves the protection of intellectual property rights, patent protection, and copyright protection. The lower the number, the less secure the rights are. Thus, the higher the number, the more secure. Over the years, we can see that there have been only very minimal deviations from both countries. However, Colombia has and continues to remain less secure overall.
Since Colombia changing their fiscal policy and having more financial regulation to decrease market volatility is better suited the country to have more foreign direct investment involved when it comes to people from outside investing in companies and factories inside the country. Still some threats that have plagued them for years still do, such as control of corruption, and also just trade across borders, given that there are still some guerrilla groups in the country that operate on those borders, as well as enforcing contracts with other countries or institutions. Colombia has somewhat of a problem with. They don't have a whole lot of foreign policy power, so sanctions and things like that they can't really impose on other countries, as well as paying their own taxes is also a threat for Colombia. Most don't see the need to because they don't make enough money. But the SWOT analysis that we came up with, I think really hammers home some of the main points that we brought up previously in the video.
Thanks for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed our seminar, and I hope you have a great day.